Hey everyone, welcome to the Wilderness Reboot podcast. I'm Mark Adamski, and Wilderness Reboot is a transitional support community exclusively designed for wilderness therapy alumni students. Today we have a special guest, Jack Hinman with Engaged Adult Transitions, and we're so excited to have you. Welcome.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Mark. It's a pleasure. I've actually been really looking for this, and it's been fun kind of connecting with you through social media, kind of getting to know about you personally. And so it's kind of fun to kind of actually spend some more time with you face to face today. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, totally. And I hope we can just have a conversation. Folks can hear about your story, how you got into mental health, and kind of hear a little bit about what you're doing now because you're doing some exciting stuff. And I think you have a really great quality program over there. I want folks to hear about it. And so I think we could maybe start with kind of a bridge of how you got into this work. I know for a moment there you were working wilderness therapy, and I was hoping, if we can kind of rewind and come back to that time. I know it might be a little while for you. If you could maybe chat and tell folks kind of how you got into this world.
Man, that's a good question. Man, I am 48 years old, and I've been doing something related to this since I was 19 in the field of mental health.
Cool.
Yeah, I was a direct care staff at a program for adults with developmental disabilities, and kind of so I've been a direct care staff, I've been a therapist, been a clinical director, I've been an executive director, and yeah, I was doing my postdoc in Texas at a community mental health, and just really disenchanted about the field of mental health. And I worked for a company that was just really exploiting Medicaid, trying to like get as much benefits they can out of the client, and probably really not the best place to really work. And I was like, man, I don't know if I even want to do this. I don't know if I want to be a psychologist really anymore. Or I wasn't even a psychologist yet. I was like in training to be a psychologist. And I was like, man, I've spent all this money on my education, spent 4 to 5 years after my bachelor's degree. And I was like, man. So I was just one night looking online, looking for jobs, and came across a wilderness therapy job in Idaho. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. I don't know anything about wilderness therapy. They never teach you about wilderness therapy in grad school, but this sounds pretty cool. Like, I like Idaho. I like the West. It's a lot better in Texas. And so I convinced my wife to move out to Idaho, and had an opportunity to work at Sioux, Idaho. And I feel like I was part of an all-star group of people that have gone on and started programs and have done really awesome things since then. Like Andy Sapp with Cherry Gulch and Novitas, Ty Maud of True North was there. Hillary Moses was there too. Tree Andrew, who's a consultant. Man, I like the list goes on and on. It was like, and so all these great people have done some really cool things in the past. Gosh, 15. I'm bad with math. This is like in like 05, 06 or something like that. And so when I was there, I was only for a year, so I was like, I can really call myself a wilderness therapist. I think I stuck my toe in it, but it created an opportunity for me to kind of find about this world of like therapeutic boarding and wilderness and everything else. And I was like, well, I think I can do this for a career. So it kind of got me sparked up again in this field. So
Yeah, definitely sparked you up because from what I see, you work with Sunrise Residential Treatment Center, Discovery Ranch for Girls, Moon Ridge Academy, Colo Canyon Residential Treatment Center. So yeah, long list there.
Yeah, and I've been fortunate to really make some really good decisions. Every place I landed at a really good program, and also got to spend some time with some really phenomenal people. And it was a lot of the places, especially Sunrise and Discovery Ranch of Girls, was on kind of the beginning of that program in a sense. I came on at Sunrise right when it was purchased by New Haven, and it was really not known as a program. I was part of a great team to kind of like really kind of create this program, and it became a DBT program, and it's been really cool to see it become like on a national level as a DBT program. And I mean, I can't take credit for that. That's Brad Simpson. That's like Dave Pryor and all these awesome people were there. And now Sunrise is connected to Marsha Linehan, which is the person who started BBT, so it was cool. And then I had a really awesome opportunity
Wow.
to help start Discover Answer Girls. It was a co-ed program, and they split it off, and we were able to make a program specifically for young women, and was part of an awesome group of people, and I was there for some time. And then I had another great opportunity to be an executive director for Moonridge Academy and also CoLab. And so I've had a lot of, really cool experiences. Great working with some awesome people.
Wow, that's so awesome. So with these residential treatment centers and academies, perhaps some of them are coming out winners, maybe not all of them, but in some capacity. So I'm sure you've seen a lot of that, population coming to these programs, and you've obviously had a lot of experience with teenagers, adolescent populations, and now young adults. And so, like, in your opinion, I know you give a lot of presentations at conferences. I've been meaning to hear one. What, in your expertise and what you've seen, like, what are some of the challenges that a lot of adolescents you've seen right now currently? What do you think they're facing?
Coming out of wilderness to the next step, or like what's the...
Yeah, we could. I want to kind of say more in general, but we could also just be more specific to wilderness if you want.
Yeah, let's answer that question first, and then like what challenges. Yeah, I think whenever we had a kid coming out of wilderness going to the places I've worked at, they were so much in a better place when it comes to kids that are coming from home or coming from rural hospitals, especially. It seems like kids coming from home in wilderness in a better place than kids coming out of the hospital.
Wow.
And kids coming out of wilderness are more quickly identifying why they're there. They've gotten that mindset of taking accountability for their experience. They've really worked on communication skills. They worked in a peer group, and it's been interesting. Sometimes that adolescent transitioning from wilderness into a residential treatment center struggles with the kids who didn't go to wilderness, or struggle. And now they're in a program where it's not such a smaller milieu, because wilderness is very structured, and so I think this now being in the next step, being around other kids, maybe are at different stages of the process, and understanding kids maybe don't want to be there or really not engaging in the process. And so I think it's really helped educating the kids to be able to have appropriate expectations with their peers versus kids who didn't go to wilderness in this sense. And so whenever I worked, like I said, places, we always really preferred working with kids coming out of wilderness, going to the...
Yeah, I've heard that a lot from a lot of transition providers. And so there's something a little bit more unique maybe about those folks. And yeah, they have a lot of community coming out of wilderness. And do you think that changes the culture in some of these programs you've worked at?
Yeah, definitely. And it's really cool to see them take a lot of pride in the place they're at. They'll get really competitive. Like, oh, my program did this. No, my program was this.
Yeah.
My program was more primitive than your program. You were an adventure-based program. Well, my program was primitive. And they really it's so cool to see these kids really take ownership of their experience and really identify with the program, the people in the program, and get super connected to their therapist. And so it can be a challenge for them to kind of step down from a wilderness program to an RTC or a therapeutic boarding school. Yeah, I think some programs shut that down. Like, they don't want to but I was completely okay with it. I mean, with kids kind of really taking a lot of pride of the program, and it's been really cool where you'll get staff or therapists that work in wilderness programs that have the hard skills and the wilderness primitive skills, and they'll get some of the wilderness kids together and kind of dust out coals and kind of reconnecting with their wilderness roots during that time.
Wow, that's so awesome. I know you have some staff who've had experience in wilderness therapy, and so maybe we can talk a little bit more about, you've obviously been in a lot of program development and just had a lot of experience in this field. What kind of inspired starting a new program? And, tell us about that journey co-founding, Engaged Adult Transitions.
I'm in the middle of it still, so I'm still feeling it, like the good, bad, and ugly, as well as being a founder of a program. Yeah, we've been open. Gosh, we're going in our 5th month. We took our first client in the middle of June, and yeah, it's been, gosh, it's been super challenging, and it takes a different mindset, like being an owner operator, like taking that leap out there and really betting on yourself. And I've seen a lot of like spaces in my own growth in that process where
Wow.
like blind faith, taking the leap, really developing a lot of like confidence in yourself. And so, and it kind of like I could talk a little bit about attachment because I can really think about being an entrepreneur and being like starting your own business and how that brings out
Cool.
attachment kind of like needs in yourself and your attachment patterns and everything. And so I'll kind of go back and forth a little bit, but
Oh, please. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm
yeah,
just
there's
gonna
some
hang out here.
really leadership around attachment and everything. So like why I wanted to do Engage is that I've always wanted to like own my own program. I really looked up to some really phenomenal people that took that risk, like or some like owner operators out there that left programs, started their own programs, and been very successful. And like Tony Mosier is somebody that sticks out to my mind about being that person. I think he was at New Haven and then wanted to start a program like the similar like quality of like care but for boys. And man, look at what Tony's done today. He's such a successful person, and really
Wow.
look up to people like that. And so I've seen like colleagues and friends take that leap of faith. And um yeah, I've always been kind of like reluctant to do that, is out of fear of the unknown, fear of like not being successful, fear of like, man, how I'm going to support my family. And um but I think I've really like I think I've like at this point in the game really learned a lot from being a clinical director and executive director and everything. And but I've always wanted to do like attachment work in a community-based setting.
Mm.
um, and when I talk about attachment, I'm not talking about adoption. That's just kind of small part of the equation. Like unfortunately, adopted folks get kind of labeled in that attachment box, but attachment really affects all of us. It's the foundation of kind of who we are. It's a foundation, and
Yeah.
it's the way, it's the stress we feel in relationships, and it's the way we respond in relationships. It's the way we see ourselves. It's like I call it our relational operating system.
Cool.
Or attach. So I wanted to do that in a community-based setting, and I think of it in my development of wanting to work with adults too. So last year I started a private practice, and serendipitously all my clients were young adults, and
Mm.
it was such a different experience working with teens, where
Yeah.
these adults are coming to you. These adults want to be in treatment, and it's not about my agenda anymore. It's about like the program's agenda. I'm not getting them through phases. I'm not getting them on a home visit. And so the
Cool.
therapeutic dynamic really changes. And that was like really exciting as a clinician because I've really worked myself out of being a therapist, but I kind of fell in love with therapy again. And, um, and so I wanted to work with adults. I wanted to do an attachment in a community-based setting. And that's kind of how Engage came to be. And so I partner with some really great people that are helping with the financial part of things, and also like I've hired an awesome program director, and we got a great clinical director. So really great group of people I'm working with.
Okay, so you mentioned attachment-based programming in conjunction, like that clinical approach in a community model. Explain a little bit more about what that means for listeners and why that community model.
100%. Like, yeah, I love this. And this is kind of, so think about it. Like we're working with young adults. We're talking like 18 to 22.
Okay.
So what's the like the big thing that like an 18 to 22-year-old is going through? What's like the big developmental task you're really not trying to navigate?
In some sense, belonging, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You're belonging, but you're creating a new belonging because you're moving.
Right.
Yeah. Where are you moving away from?
Right.
Your
You're
family,
moving. Yeah.
your
Yeah.
parents. Like your parents, you've been your primary attachment figures your whole life, typically, your guardians and those things. And so a normal developmental task is moving from your parents, your primary attachment figures, and now you've got to develop your own social network of attachment figures. And so what happens is that like adults are primed socially, culturally, even neurologically to move in that direction. And so what happens is that it's a great like that yeah it's a great spot to start focusing on like relationships, intimate relationships, and dating and building lifelong friends and all those other things too. And so what happens is that that is attachment. That's the foundation of attachment. So it's a really great, I'll call it the unique window of change. I really believe between the ages of like 18 to 25, 26 is probably the biggest time you can actually make the most pivotal changes in one's life, because you can really adjust the attachment system, which is your foundation of who you are, because you're moving from your parents to developing your own network. And research indicates that attachment can change. You can update your attachment system. You're not stuck in a unhealthy attachment process. You can move that. And so this is a time of really helping young adults connect with secure people in their lives, and having those secure connections can start shifting their attachment style. So if you grew up in a very chaotic or an unhealthy environment and have an insecure attachment style, you're not screwed for life. And so the goal is to get you connected with some healthy, consistent, secure people.
Mm,
And through
yeah.
that experience, you can evolve, you can change, you can update your operating system.
Right, the operating system, like you mentioned, in a relational context with folks who are showing you secure attachment and giving you real time feedback, and in a community setting that's supportive, right?
And
And
that,
I know you're an avid, mountain biker, and I know
mm,
you do some outings and you do trips. And tell us more about, a little bit more about your program. I know you have like life coaching certifications and trainings for your staff, and I kind of want to let you speak to that a little bit more. But take us into, from the perspective of an incoming student and what that looks like for them, maybe.
yeah, and I want to connect a little bit what I was talking about when you talk mountain biking,
Oh,
because that's my life story.
yeah.
Like finding my new attachment figures, it was my mountain bike buddies.
Cool.
And I'm 48. I started mountain biking in the late 80s when they didn't have like suspension. It was like all like you have a suspension fork. You didn't have clipless pedals. We were using like
Carbon fiber.
road bikes to put on a mountain bike to put it together. And so I made these deep, long connections with two to three, like really two really awesome friends that were into mountain biking, and they became my secure base. I moved out west with them. I actually literally got to hang out with one, like one of those two friends this weekend. And so mountain biking has been kind of like a theme through my whole life. It's kind of who I connect with. It's like yeah, it's the
You see,
foundation of my life. And so yeah, through those
that's
those
awesome.
two awesome friends who were safe, secure people really helped shape me who I am today. And so I can really speak to the impact in young adulthood. So I moved out west. I like went to school, and then it's history from there. And so yeah, so I'm a big believer in having those secure connections. So our goals with our young adults is helping them find those connections in the community. So we're we're a community based program, and so ultimately, Engage is a secure base, and through that secure base, our adults feel safe. And through that process of feeling safe, they want to adventure. They feel vulnerable. They actually want to take risk. And
All
so
right.
then they want to venture out in the community. And so what's really cool about Engage is that every adult has their own bedroom and bathroom throughout the course of their stay. And this by that that's just one part of the program to create a secure base. And so our goal is to move them out of our lifestyle into building their own lifestyle in the community. And so we use community service, we use adventure therapy, and we have group therapy, individual therapy, family therapy. And so the best way to describe Engage is that we're kind of at a clinical level as like an RTC, but we don't have the controls of an RTC. We don't have the rules of our RTC or the container of an RTC per se. So our adults need to be in a very clinically sophisticated environment, but they don't need an RTC level of care, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
gotcha.
they need the clinical sophistication of an RTC. They need the clinical intensity of an RTC, but they don't need the round the clock supervision of an RTC. And so that's kind of like the kind of the sweet spot that we're landing out with our adults is that space. And
Cool.
And so most of our adults we work with are coming who have been in wilderness therapy
Okay.
as teens, been in RTCs as teens, and some of them up to 2 to 3 years. Like so, they've been kind of like they have tremendous treatment fatigue, and I hate the
Right.
word institutionalized, but it's so true. Like
Yeah.
a lot of our clients have been institutionalized, and you think being a teen, living away from your families in an RTC setting, you think you'd be like you'd have independent skills, but they're far from that because every single minute of the day has been dictated for them, like when you brush your teeth, when you eat, everything else. And so a lot of these adults really are lacking the independent skills they miss because they were in treatment. The treatment
Wow.
actually impacted their development. And so the adults we work with are really helping them just have the emotional initiative to be independent, and they really miss that opportunity. And so what we're doing at Engage is providing the clinical level of care, but without the feel of being back in treatment again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because our adults are understandably so reactive to treatment because they've been in treatment for so long. And so we're not using sticks anymore. We're using carrots because they're adults. And so it's been really fun to create an environment where they still need that clinical care, but getting them bought in. And so by doing that, we give them lots of trust and lots of freedom. And by doing so, then they're motivated to be involved in their treatment.
Wow. So is it fair to say that oftentimes maybe some of the students leaving or exiting your program, it's kind of the last stop in treatment?
Yeah, on a lot of levels. For themselves, they're kind of done.
Yeah.
And their parents are kind of tapped out financially, and parents are tapped out emotionally. And so, yeah, we've had adults that like parents will say that this is your last shot. And, um, and I think for themselves too, I think they've really kind of have a bad taste in their mouth about therapy. And so like I've been in therapy forever and it doesn't work. Like, so what's the point of being there?
Yeah.
So that's why we really want to create an environment that is kind of very experiential. We're heavy coaching and mentoring. We're really small, super small. Like we have like our orientation house, we only could take up to 6 adults, and we'll have 2 or 3 life coaches like at the same time along with us. So the numbers will almost be like 1-to-1 kind of
Yeah.
ratio.
Great ratio there. Mm-hmm.
And what's really cool about like our building, man, our building shapes what we do is that we have a house and we have apartments built onto the house. And so the adults have their own bedroom and bathroom. They have a shared kitchen with a 2-bedroom apartment, but they don't have a living room. So what happens is that organically they hang out in our space a lot. So they have a sense of autonomy and independence, but we're around them a lot. We get to see them often. We see when things are going off the rails pretty quickly. And so we provide a high level of coaching and mentoring. And so all our staff are trained in whole life. That's our life coaching model.
Yeah, we talked
Um,
about that. That's awesome.
yeah, because it's not about supervision anymore. It's about intervention or mentoring and coaching. So like what are your staff doing if they don't have that skill set? And so by having all our staff be trained like life coaches, we get awesome staff because that like during our first cohort of people we hired, we had like 40 to 45 applicants
Yeah.
in a town of 40,000 people.
I remember that's when we started chatting, and yeah, because I think, yeah, there's this ambiguous level around coaching and mentorship. And, there's a lot of people who I think could fit the bill for being a good coach and mentor with their work experience. But I think there's a little bit more involved sometimes with having training, right? And coaching it in an organized programmatic format.
Mm-hmm. And so we're getting people here that are maybe worked at residential treatment centers as teens and then really want to play a larger role in the people they're working with. And so having these staff be trained life coaches, they're moving the needle on a larger level. And so they're kind of case managers, but also life coaches. And so they're getting a lot of satisfaction from their job by having a really large role in the program.
Wow. So for families listening, maybe they have a student already enrolled in a wilderness program. What would you say to them? And any advice or anything you would tell them to consider for any aftercare options or anything like that?
Yeah, I think the key is keeping that momentum going. Like, having a wilderness experience is no like any other for your child, and they're on a, like they call it's called the wilderness high. Like,
Yeah.
like man, and of course it's gonna wane. But how do you keep that momentum going? And I think it's so important to have them kind of still connected and tapped into the elements of wilderness when they leave the program, and that being kind of like kind of the coaching support as your program does to kind of help provide that momentum going. And not every kid who goes to wilderness needs to go to another program. It's like kind of like the hot potato kind of thing. Like everybody just wants to pass the hot potato, and that experience can be impactful for the family, impactful for the kid. And if you get the right wraparound supports at home, that could be successful.
Yeah.
Because you got to think about it. Like any form of treatment, being like medication or chemo or whatever you're doing, there's side effects to that. And we're starting to really acknowledge the side effects of residential treatment and treatment in boarding schools and everything else. They're really helpful, but there's also side effects to it. I mean, it's time away from the family and everything else. And so, like, not every kid needs that. And so I think having a program here like yours is perfect to help tap into that experience that can continue on at home.
Wow. Jack Hinman, honest, informative. It's been fun. How can folks contact you? Anything else families need to know about engaged adult transitions?
Yeah, they can find me on like www sounds so old these days, like www.engagelifenow.com. It sounds like that's so old, but yeah, engagelifenow.com is our website. I always get like I can't say the other part, http / whatever.
Yeah,
anyway,
whatever that is.
Yeah, engagelifenow.com is probably really the best way to locate me, or the easiest way to remember. You can always text or call me anytime. Like I'll take call from, like, if you want to talk attachment, you talk about transition or mountain biking, I'll definitely take a call.
Yeah, sign me up.
You can call me at 435-703-1189.
Awesome. Well, we'll be sure to put some of that info in the description box so folks can contact you. And thanks so much, Jack. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I really appreciate it. It was a fun opportunity to kind of reconnect with you.
Yeah, totally. Well, have a wonderful day, and thanks for the work you're doing.
Okay, sounds great.
Bye.